The golden gates of Royal Lodge are locked tight. Staff have packed up and walked away, not fired, not retired, just done serving him. This isn't tabloid talk, it's the real scene behind one of Britain's most iconic royal walls. And now, the question whispered for years inside palace halls is finally out loud. Who is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor really? Not the charming prince or heroic sailor everyone once adored, but the man who made maids cry, kept footmen working past midnight, and treated palace staff like they didn't matter. Protected by his powerful mother, he dodged every consequence, until now.
Let's talk royals. Well, last week it was dominated, wasn't it, about Prince Andrew? What did he, didn't he know? Was he going to be losing his titles? Was he going to be ousted from his home? Well, it certainly looks like he is going to be leaving his 30-room mansion in Windsor Royal.
What's coming next doesn't come from gossip mags. It's from Paul Burrell, a man who spent over 20 years serving Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III, and Princess Diana. He saw it all, and he's finally speaking out, revealing secrets that cut deeper than any headline. Paul Burrell isn't some fame-hungry insider. His words carry real royal weight. Paul Burrell spent over 20 years deep inside one of the world's most secretive institutions. He started as a footman to Queen Elizabeth II, not some background helper, but someone who served the monarch herself every single day.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. From that day forth, I was never in contact with him.
Later, he became butler to the then Prince of Wales, now King Charles III. But his bond with Princess Diana changed everything. From 1987 until her heartbreaking death in 1997, Burrell wasn't just staff, he was her rock, her confidant, the one who stood by her through the collapse of her marriage and every brutal media storm. He witnessed her pain, her courage, and her fight to stay human under impossible pressure. His first book, A Royal Duty, sold over 2 million copies worldwide. That's not just a royal tell-all, that's a cultural explosion.
Yeah, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends.
Now at 67, Burrell is back with The Royal Insider, My Life with the Queen, the King, and Princess Diana, set to release in January 2026. And this time, he's taking aim straight at one of the monarchy's most controversial names, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Once a prince, a war veteran, and Europe's most sought-after bachelor, now stripped of titles, duties, and the loyalty of everyone who once bowed before him. How does a prince fall this hard, and why did it take so long? Paul Burrell's answer hits like a punch, because for decades, one woman made sure he never faced the fallout. That woman, his own mother, Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen's ultimate blind spot. And before you brush that off as too dramatic, listen closely. Burrell isn't just throwing shade, he's laying out a pattern, a royal system that insiders saw crystal clear while the public stayed in the dark. Here's what Burrell told Fox News Digital, word for word. He consistently exhibited a sense of entitlement because he benefited from his mother's unwavering protection. Perhaps our late queen bears some responsibility for this, as she consistently indulged her favorite son. Let that sink in. This isn't coming from a bitter outsider. It's from a man who served the royal family for decades, who cried at Diana's funeral, and who spent years defending the monarchy.
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation, and that was later on in 2006.
Now he's saying flat out, the Queen created this problem. Burrell explains it like this. By the time Andrew was born in 1960, Elizabeth had changed. With Charles and Anne, it was all duty, no softness. Affection came second to discipline. But Andrew entered a gentler royal home. The Queen had found room for warmth, and Prince Philip's once firm grip seemed softer with him. That tiny shift, Burrell says, shaped Andrew into the man he became, entitled, untouchable, and unaware that his fall would one day come crashing down. And here's where it gets wild. Andrew didn't just bend the rules, he found a way to dodge even Prince Philip. That's huge. Royal historians rarely mention it, but Philip, for all his strict, no-nonsense image, played a key role behind palace doors. He was the gatekeeper, the one who made sure even his grown kids followed the right protocol to see the Queen. You couldn't just stroll in and chat with the Majesty whenever you felt like it. There was order, a system, a chain of command. But Andrew, he ignored it all, walked right past it like the rules didn't apply to him. You ever met someone like that, at work, in your family, who breaks every rule and somehow never gets called out? The more they get away with it, the worse they act? That's exactly how Beryl describes Andrew. Not born bad, just never corrected. And when discipline comes from the top, that means the problem started there too.
And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So it was one of those things that if somebody's going through that sort of thing, well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be.
Now Beryl's story shifts from psychological insight to straight-up disturbing. According to Beryl, Andrew's behavior wasn't occasional, it was constant, a full-blown pattern. Beryl told Fox News Digital, "I frequently encountered Andrew over many years. I directly witnessed his arrogance. He would often dismiss staff with crude language, telling them to sod off or get out. That kind of disrespect," Beryl says, was shocking, especially from a man raised to represent the crown. Read that again. A senior royal, living off public funds, representing the crown, reportedly treating palace staff like they were disposable. And this wasn't about stress or rare bad days. Paul Beryl says it was routine, daily arrogance, constant disrespect. And the shocking part? It didn't stop with words. Beryl claims Andrew often threw lavish late-night parties, dinners, and social gatherings that forced staff to stay up working until well past midnight, unpaid, unplanned, and completely outside their duties. This wasn't about royal tradition, it was pure entitlement. His comfort always came first, even over people's need to rest. It got so bad, Beryl says, that Queen Elizabeth II herself had to step in. Not a manager, not a senior aide. The Queen of England personally rebuked her own son for mistreating palace staff. But here's the chilling part. When the monarch has to get involved, you know it's serious. Yet nothing changed. According to Beryl, instead of learning his lesson, Andrew and his then-wife Sarah Ferguson doubled down. They reportedly began banning maids from entering their bedroom to make the beds, choosing to stay in bed for hours just to make a point. Beryl described it as exploiting the system completely. Think about that. A prince so entitled that even a royal scolding couldn't humble him. Instead of reflection, he turned defiance into a lifestyle. This is a man who never backs down. When reprimanded, he doesn't reflect, he plots a workaround. And right beside him was Sarah Ferguson, now 66, once the Duchess of York. And according to Beryl, she was the perfect match for his behavior. Not a compliment, a warning. Beryl paints her as coming from a modest background, the daughter of a farmer or polo manager, a total outsider to royal life. Then Andrew pulled her into a world of privilege without limits. Whatever she wanted, she got. Beryl recalls how she grew just as spoiled and self-indulgent as Andrew himself. Together, they became what he calls a perfectly suited pair, feeding off each other's worst instincts in a bubble of excess. No correction, no accountability, because the only person who could rein them in, the Queen, had already tried and failed.
Then came the fall from grace, and the whole world saw it happen in 2019. During that infamous BBC Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis, Andrew tried to explain his connection to the late Jeffrey Epstein, and it was a total train wreck. Not just awkward, a complete disaster. He insisted he couldn't sweat. He used a Pizza Express trip in Woking as an alibi, and he claimed he didn't even remember meeting Virginia Giuffre, despite a photograph showing otherwise. That interview didn't just damage his reputation, it shattered it. During that Newsnight interview, Andrew showed zero empathy for Epstein's victims, none at all. And what stunned everyone even more was his tone. He said he didn't regret his friendship with Epstein. He framed it as some honorable duty, claiming he only met Epstein after his release from prison to formally end the friendship face-to-face. The reaction was explosive. Royal experts were horrified. PR professionals called it catastrophic, and the public, from London to New York, sat in disbelief. Within days, Andrew stepped back from royal duties. Within weeks, it became clear this wasn't a short break, it was the end. Though it took 6 more years for his titles to be officially removed, his royal career effectively died that night on camera. Then came the final blow. On October 30th, 2025, King Charles III made it official. Andrew was stripped of all royal titles and honors. No HRH, no Duke, no Prince, just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The palace stopped speaking for him entirely, shutting the door on a man once considered untouchable. But Burrell warns this isn't just about arrogance or cruelty, it's part of a darker picture. According to his memoir, the same entitlement that made Andrew mistreat staff may explain the behavior now under investigation. The Metropolitan Police have confirmed an active case involving Andrew, sparked by a 2011 email reportedly showing him instructing his police bodyguard to collect private information, including the social security number and birth date of his accuser, Virginia Giuffre. That's not just scandal, that's potentially evidence. Let that sink in. A man accused of abuse allegedly told a police officer, a sworn public servant, to dig up personal data on his accuser. Whether that officer actually did it is unclear, but the claim alone is shocking, and it's not something the palace can just brush off with a no comment. This isn't rumor anymore, it's serious. Then come the emails. The BBC reportedly reviewed documents suggesting Andrew may have leaked confidential reports from a 2010 trade mission to Southeast Asia straight to Jeffrey Epstein. These papers, said to be part of the U.S. Department of Justice's massive data release, sent shockwaves through royal and political circles alike. If true, this isn't about bad manners behind palace walls, it's about state-level betrayal. We're talking about a senior royal representing the UK as a trade envoy, possibly sharing classified intel with a convicted criminal. That's not just poor judgment, that's a breach of national trust. And now the fallout is visible. Palace staff have started refusing to work for him. Reports say many employees have been told they're not obligated to serve Andrew if they feel uneasy, and plenty have already walked away. According to one insider, the atmosphere at his residence is one of deep unease. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has become a complete outcast. And here's the real question. When palace staff, people raised on loyalty and duty, start saying no to a royal, what does that tell you? It tells you the line's been crossed and there's no going back. It shows that whatever Andrew has done or is accused of doing has pushed even the most loyal palace staff to the point where they won't stand in the same room with him. That says everything. Now, let's step back, because Paul Burrell's memoir isn't just exposing one man's downfall, it's revealing a deeper truth about the British monarchy itself. This isn't just a family, it's an institution. A living symbol of power and tradition that survives on something incredibly fragile: public trust. That trust comes from the people who fund it, who wave the flags, who still believe the crown stands for dignity and service. But when a senior royal behaves the way Andrew allegedly did, mistreating staff, using his position for personal gain, associating with convicted criminals, and possibly leaking confidential state information, it's not just his reputation that burns, it scorches the entire institution. King Charles III knows this better than anyone. Commentators say he's been firm and deliberate, stripping Andrew of titles, cutting him off from royal duties, and making it clear that the monarchy must protect its integrity. Yet the headlines keep coming, each one a bruise on the crown's image. And here's the emotional twist. Charles isn't just a king, he's a brother. Their lives were shaped by different roles, different expectations, and complicated parental dynamics. But no matter the distance or duty, they share blood, they share history, they share the heavy weight of being born into the House of Windsor, a legacy built on power, privilege, and pressure. But here's the hard question. What does it really mean to be a good king when protecting the crown means confronting its own failures? How do you defend an institution that's been shielding its flaws for decades? These aren't easy questions, and coming from Paul Burrell, a man who spent over 20 years inside those walls, they hit even harder. Now let's turn to the real heart of this story, the staff. The maids banned from bedrooms, the footmen who faced Andrew's temper, the workers forced to stay up until sunrise just to keep his parties going. These weren't random employees, they were loyal professionals who saw royal service as an honor, a lifetime commitment built on respect and duty. But according to Burrell, that loyalty was exploited, taken advantage of by someone who saw their dedication as his right to demand anything, anytime. And now something remarkable is happening. The silence is breaking. Recent reports show more palace staff are openly refusing to serve Andrew. That's not just rebellion, that's history shifting inside the palace itself. For generations, the unspoken rule was clear: serve, stay silent, and protect the institution no matter what. But that old code of silence, it's cracking. And once it breaks completely, the truth inside those royal walls might finally come out. Now let's step back, because Paul Burrell's memoir isn't just exposing one man's downfall, it's revealing a deeper truth about the British monarchy itself. This isn't just a family, it's an institution, a living symbol of power and tradition that survives on something incredibly fragile: public trust. That trust comes from the people who fund it, who wave the flags, who still believe the crown stands for dignity and service. But when a senior royal behaves the way Andrew allegedly did, mistreating staff, using his position for personal gain, associating with convicted criminals, and possibly leaking confidential state information, it's not just his reputation that burns, it scorches the entire institution. King Charles III knows this better than anyone. Commentators say he's been firm and deliberate, stripping Andrew of titles, cutting him off from royal duties, and making it clear that the monarchy must protect its integrity. Yet the headlines keep coming, each one a bruise on the crown's image. And here's the emotional twist: Charles isn't just a king, he's a brother. Their lives were shaped by different roles, different expectations, and complicated parental dynamics. But no matter the distance or duty, they share blood, they share history, they share the heavy weight of being born into the House of Windsor, a legacy built on power, privilege, and pressure. But here's the hard question. What does it really mean to be a good king when protecting the crown means confronting its own failures? How do you defend an institution that's been shielding its flaws for decades? These aren't easy questions, and coming from Paul Burrell, a man who spent over 20 years inside those walls, they hit even harder. Now let's turn to the real heart of this story, the staff. The maids banned from bedrooms, the footmen who faced Andrew's temper, the workers forced to stay up until sunrise just to keep his parties going. These weren't random employees, they were loyal professionals who saw royal service as an honor, a lifetime commitment built on respect and duty. But according to Burrell, that loyalty was exploited, taken advantage of by someone who saw their dedication as his right to demand anything, anytime. And now something remarkable is happening. The silence is breaking. Recent reports show more palace staff are openly refusing to serve Andrew. That's not just rebellion, that's history shifting inside the palace itself. For generations, the unspoken rule was clear: serve, stay silent, and protect the institution no matter what. But that old code of silence, it's cracking. And once it breaks completely, the truth inside those royal walls might finally come out.
Paul Burrell is part of the crack forming inside the palace walls, and he's not alone. The insiders speaking to The Sun, the staff who have quietly told royal officials they refuse to work for Andrew, they're all part of that same shift. When the people closest to power start saying enough is enough, it's not just gossip anymore, it's a revolution in silence. Something deep inside the royal machine has changed forever. And then there's Sarah Ferguson, once the Duchess of York, now stripped of that title too. Known to the public as Fergie, she's long held a strange mix of public sympathy and scandal. She's been open about her money troubles, her rocky relationship with the royals, and how she always felt like an outsider trying to survive in a gilded cage. But Burrell's account adds a sharper edge to her story. He doesn't describe a villain, he describes an ordinary woman swept into extraordinary privilege by a man who promised her everything. She truly had everything, Burrell recalls. Whatever she wished for, she received. The problem wasn't what she wanted, it was the absence of limits. When two people live in a world without boundaries, they don't just spoil themselves, they fuel each other's worst impulses. Together, Andrew and Sarah created their own royal echo chamber, a place where indulgence replaced accountability and excess became the norm. Now, Sarah has reportedly moved out of Royal Lodge, her Duchess title revoked, leaving behind a legacy of wealth, scandal, and what-ifs, the fallout of a royal system that let too much slide for far too long. Whatever protection Sarah once had through Andrew, even indirectly, is gone for good. What's left for both of them now is the aftermath of decades of choices that were never challenged because the people who could have stopped them chose to look away. So where does this all lead? Where does it leave Andrew? And where does it leave the palace itself? The Metropolitan Police investigation is still active, digging into those alleged emails, the supposed disclosures, and the claims of classified trade documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing has been resolved yet, and the tension keeps building. Andrew continues to deny all accusations, while the palace sticks to its cold, four-word response about Paul Burrell's memoir. We don't comment on such books. But silence isn't the same as innocence, and ignoring questions doesn't erase them. Here's what we do know. The royal protection that shielded Andrew for decades has been stripped away piece by piece. The Queen, his fiercest defender, is gone. His titles, gone. His staff refusing to come back. The palace communications team completely cut him off. And now Paul Burrell, a man who lived and worked inside those walls for over 20 years, is pulling the curtain back on a reality the institution fought desperately to hide. The shield is gone, the silence is breaking, and for the first time ever, the consequences might finally be catching up. Paul Burrell's memoir gives voice to what insiders whispered behind palace doors, that Andrew was a man shielded by a mother who never drew boundaries, a prince protected from responsibility, and someone who never truly learned to show respect to the people around him. Now all that protection is gone, his titles gone, the crown's shield gone, and with Queen Elizabeth II no longer here to defend him, Andrew stands exposed in a way he never has before. What's left is a question the palace can't avoid forever, not with another no comment, but with real answers, under real scrutiny, as investigations and legal processes unfold. And the staff who walked away, they've already given their answer, loud and clear. Let's be honest, people tend to see the monarchy as something untouchable, a world apart where normal consequences don't apply. And for a long time that was true, especially for Andrew. But Burrell's revelations show something powerful. Even the most protected can't stay protected forever. Systems have a way of correcting themselves. Even the strongest mother can't shield her son from truth forever. And even the most loyal servants, the ones who kept silent out of duty, eventually reach a breaking point. The walls of silence are cracking, and for once, not even a prince can hide behind them. Even a king can't ignore the truth forever, not when the walls of his own institution start closing in. At some point, even royalty has to face what's been hiding in plain sight. But here's the real question. What do we do once the truth finally comes out? When whispers turn into memoirs, when insiders start speaking, when the staff walks away and refuses to play along, what happens next? Is it enough for us to just watch the chaos, shake our heads, and scroll to the next headline? Or do stories like this demand something deeper, a real look at how power protects itself and the damage that protection leaves behind? Because this isn't just about one man's downfall, it's about a system built to keep certain people untouchable, no matter the cost. Paul Burrell's revelations crack open that system, showing us what happens when privilege goes unchecked and loyalty finally runs out. The truth isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. So let's keep this conversation going. What do you think happens next for Andrew, the palace, and the monarchy itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video to keep the discussion alive. Because the story behind the story, that's where the real truth always hides.